Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Nutrition and Childcare, CNCC-1 Nutrition for the Community Economics of Food, BLOCK-3 Meal Planning, Unit-7, Principles of Meal Planning and Meal Planning for the Adult. 7.1, Introduction. In Unit 6 of Block 2, you studied about balanced diets. A balanced diet, as you know, includes the right kind of foods in the right amounts and proportions so as to meet the nutrient needs of the individual for whom it is planned. A day's diet consists of 3 main meals, say breakfast, lunch, dinner. If we ensure that each meal is balanced, the day's diet would be balanced as well. You have already learned the essentials of planning balanced meals and diets. On going through this unit, you will find that balanced meals must be planned within the socio-cultural, economic and regional framework of the individual. This practical and useful exercise of planning acceptable and adequate meals is called meal planning. In addition to the factors mentioned earlier, several others play a role in meal planning, such as individual preferences, saving on time and labor and providing variety in the diet. This unit will talk about these factors and how to apply them in order to plan suitable meals. Using this knowledge of meal planning, we shall then learn how to plan balanced meals for adults. Adulthood, as you may be aware, is the last phase of the life cycle of an individual. It begins from the age of 20 years and extends through old age till the time of death. Great variation exists in the nutrient need of adults depending on age, sex, and activity pattern. What are the nutritional needs of this population group? How does age, sex, and activity pattern influence nutrient needs? What are the problems faced in meeting the needs, especially with respect to older adults? How do we provide nutritious and inexpensive diets for adults? We shall examine all these aspects in this unit. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to discuss the concept and aims of meal planning, identify the factors that need to be considered while planning meals, describe the period of adulthood, list the recommended dietary intakes for adults and discuss meal planning for the adult. 7.2 Meal Planning. Any individual who carries the responsibility of providing meals has to take decisions regarding what to serve, how much to serve, how much to spend, where to shop, how much to buy, how to prepare food, how to serve meals, at what hour to serve meal, and so on. All such decisions are a part of planning meals. Extending this concept further, one could define meal planning as a simple practical exercise which involves applying the knowledge of food, nutrient requirement, individual preferences to plan adequate and acceptable meals. In other terms, meal planning means planning for adequate nutrition. Remember, meal planning is just not an exercise of selecting the right kind of foods to help meet the nutrient needs. It also concerns with preparing / planning attractive and enjoyable meals for all persons. Meals must taste good, smell good. Because food is seen before it is tasted, the eyes have a role as well in food acceptance. Meals must look good to be tasted to be enjoyed. To do this, the planner does not have to be knowledgeable only, but also imaginative and creative. The art of skillful blending of foods in terms of color, texture and flavor must be known. In this context, therefore, it is said that meal planning is an art. It is an art which develops through thought and inspiration. Meal planning, in fact, is a skill which improves with practice. 7.2.1 Aims of meal planning. Why do we need to plan meals? Let us find the answer to this question with the following examples. Meena and Raju are school-going children. They love eating hamburgers, chocolates, toffees and ice creams. Their eating habits are influenced by their friends and by the food advertisements on the television. Their mother, Sita Devi, on the other hand, disapproves of their eating habits and is always coaxing them to drink milk, eat green leafy vegetables, chapatis/rice. B. Mohan and Abha have invited friends for dinner. Abha is keen on preparing delicious and attractive dishes for her guests. She's trying various food combinations and preparation methods to provide variety and make the meal more appealing. Rati is a working woman. She has limited resources, time and energy. Her consideration is to be able to prepare nutritious meals at reasonable cost within the time available. From these examples, what clues can we get on why we need to plan meals? Let us consider it. The case of Sita Devi, you would have noticed that, consciously or unconsciously, she's trying to provide nutritious meals for her children. Abha, for sure, is aiming to prepare an attractive and satisfying meal for her guests. And Rati, like Sita Devi, is also attempting to provide nutritious meals at reasonable cost. It is, therefore, evident that the effort of all the three, Sita Devi, Abha and Rati, is to provide satisfying, nutritious meals. This, in fact, is the first and the foremost aim of meal planning. What are the others? Think. From your experience, try listing down how planning meals would help you. You can tally your responses with the aims of meal planning listed below. The aims in planning meals are to fulfill the nutritional needs of the family members, taking into account the family size and composition, plan meals within the family income, i.e., make maximum use of the money available in the best possible way, aid in the proper purchase, preparation and service of food, economize on time, labor and fuel. Provide variety in the diet by making proper selection of foods from within each of the three food group. Meal planning helps to ensure nutritious meals according to personal likes/dislikes. Figure 7.1 Aim of meal planning. Look at the screen for table content. Make meals appealing and palatable by proper selection of food in terms of color, texture and flavor. Provide nutritious meals taking into account individual preferences. Figure 7.1. Plan meals in advance, so that any pre-preparation required can be made and also the leftovers from the previous meals can be economically utilized. 7.2.2 Factors to be considered in meal planning. Providing a meal that would be enjoyed and accepted by one and all in the family is rather difficult. Why? Individual preferences, varied nutrient needs, varied food habits, are a few factors that would influence ideal planning. The crucial aspect to be considered then is how best to plan adequate and satisfying meals within the socio-cultural, economic, regional and psychological framework of the individual. Here is a detailed discussion on this aspect. However, before we discuss these factors, let us first get to know certain terms that are often used in the context of meal planning. These are discussed in Box 7.1. Box 1.1 Meal, menu and meal pattern defined below are terms used frequently in meal planning. Meal, normally an individual eats 3 to 4 times a day. The foods consumed at a particular time of the day constitute a meal. For example, foods taken in the morning constitute a meal breakfast. Similarly, foods eaten in the afternoon are a part of lunch. Usually breakfast, lunch and dinner are the three main meals consumed in a day. Menu. A menu is the list of dishes/food items served at a meal. Consider the examples of two menus given below. Menu A. Rice sambar, arhar dal/vegetables preparation. Curd. Menu B. Chapati rice rajma aloo gobi, cauliflower/potato preparation, onion raita, curd preparation. Menu A is common in a Tamilian household whereas Menu B is common in Punjabi households. Meal frequency. This term refers to the number of meals consumed in a day. For example, if you consume breakfast, lunch, tea and dinner in a day, the meal frequency is 4. Meal pattern. It refers to the number of meals, i.e. the meal frequency, the timing and nature of different meals consumed in a day. Check your progress exercise. 1.1. Read the following paragraph. Mohan is an accountant in a government office in North India. His office timings are 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. His meal pattern is as follows. He has bed tea early morning. Before leaving for his office, he consumes a heavy breakfast. He carries a packed lunch to office, which he eats around 1:30 p.m. Before lunch, around mid-morning, he usually takes tea along with his friends. Around 4:30 p.m. he has another cup of tea supplemented with a snack. He returns home around 7:30 p.m. and has dinner right away. Then 8 at night. Before going to bed, he drinks a glass of milk. Now answer the following questions. A. What is the meal frequency adopted by Mohan? B. List the various meals Mohan has had in a day. C. Can you suggest a menu for dinner for Mohan? You have just been introduced to some new terms in Box 7.1. With this understanding, let us now move on to discuss the major considerations in planning meals. Figure 7.2. We begin with nutritional adequacy. Figure 7.2 Factors affecting meal planning. Look at the screen for table content. I. Nutritional adequacy. The nutritional requirement of the individual be served is an important consideration in meal planning. This point is particularly important when we are planning meals for a family. In a family, as you know, there might be different individuals, a child, an adolescent, an adult, a pregnant woman or an elderly person. Each of these individual has his/her own specific nutrient requirements. The basic aim while planning meals should be to fulfill the nutrient need of each individual. How do we ensure this? This can be ensured by planning balanced meals according to the recommended dietary intakes for different individuals. 2. Plan balanced meals. Do you recall the discussion we had in Block 2 on how to plan/prepare balanced meals? We talked about the 3 food groups, namely energy-giving, bodybuilding and protective/regulatory food group. Including food items from each of these 3 food groups in each meal can ensure balanced diets. What are the food items in each group? Can you list them? Think of all the food items available and list them in chart I under the heading food item according to the group they belong to. For example, in the energy-giving group, cereals are included. List all cereals like wheat, rice etc. in the place provided in front of cereals as indicated in chart I. Similarly, you could list the food items included in the other food groups. Chart I, the 3-group classification of food. Look at the screen for table content. Now the problem is, which food items to include from this exhaustive list? The selection of food items from each food group would depend on how much the individual can spend on food and what is available and acceptable to the individual. These aspects are discussed in the subsequent points. 3. Economic considerations. The income of the family, or more specifically, the amount of money available for food per person influences the kind and amount of food to be included in each meal. To understand this better, consider the 3 income groups: low, middle and high. People with limited income or those belonging to the lower income group may not be able to include much of milk, meat and fruits in their daily diet, as these are expensive foods. So the crucial decision is what food items to select that would enable them to plan nutritious meals at low cost. Well, there are many ways in which one can ensure nutritious meals without increasing the cost. To begin with, one could use more of the cheaper foods like cereals. It would further lower cost if high price cereals such as rice or wheat are partially replaced by millets, i.e. ragi, jowar, bajra, and partially by roots and tubers, i.e. potato, colocasia, tapioca, jaggery instead of sugar, seasonal and locally available fruits and vegetables only. food combinations, cereal/pulse, and processes like germination, fermentation, tea improve the nutritive value, as they add extra nutrients without extra cost. Cheaper variety of pulses and cheap nuts such as groundnuts, vegetable oils. People belonging to middle income group can surely have more variety by including more of cereals, rice/wheat pulses, milk, fruits and vegetables. They can have reasonable amounts of fats/oils and sugar in their diets. However, use of nuts/oil seeds and other miscellaneous foods like jam, jellies etc. would be limited. As income rises, one gets the freedom to choose from a wide variety of foods, in or out of season, locally available or purchased from outside. Consumption of milk and milk products, meat, vegetables, fruits, fats/oils etc. tends to increase. But care needs to be taken that foods like fats/oils, sugars, are not taken in amounts more than needed by the body. 4. Food acceptance. Individual likes and dislikes, religious taboos, socio-cultural practices are some of the factors that influence an individual's acceptance or rejection of certain foods. While planning OE should take into consideration all these aspects and accordingly select the foods. Here are a few key points you could keep in mind. Include traditional or region-specific foods in a meal. For instance, rice and rice preparations like idli, dosa, etc. are typical foods of the South, Tamil Nadu. Similarly, dhokla, khandvi etc. are typical of West India, Gujarat. Including such foods in a meal would make meals acceptable because people living in these regions are familiar with these foods and have been tuned to their specific taste and preparations. Plan meals keeping the religious considerations in mind since religion greatly influences food acceptance. For instance, you know that in certain communities eating meat and other flesh foods is totally forbidden. Even among flesh foods, eating of beef is forbidden in one community and pork in another. A wise planner should know about the various food preferences of religious groups and accordingly provide meals. Plan meals keeping in mind the likes/dislikes of the individuals. But, remember likes/dislikes should not interfere with meeting the nutrient needs of the individual. Milk and green leafy vegetables, for example, are generally disliked by children and frequently not consumed. In such a situation, therefore, the diet could lack in certain essential nutrients. We need to avoid this. Keeping the dislike in mind, it is always better to change the form of food and then include it in the diet and make it more acceptable. Figure 7.3. For instance, if milk is disliked, then it is better to serve curd, cottage cheese-based preparations or any other milk product. Figure 7.3. The food in which food LS series influence food acceptance. Look at the screen for table content. 5. Food availability. The availability of certain food items in a particular region influences meal planning. For instance, in the coastal regions, fish and other seafoods are easily available and cheap. These foods form an essential part of the diet of people residing in the coastal region. Similarly, rice is a common staple grown in the south. Hence, it should and usually does form the major ingredient in the meals planned for the southern household. The availability of food according to seasonal variation is also to be considered. This is especially true of fruits and vegetables. A knowledge of fruits and vegetables and their season of availability would help us to include them in the meal when they are at their peak quality and at an affordable price. So far we have talked about the various factors influencing the selection of food while planning meals. Now we move on to discuss the factors influencing meal patterns. Why? Meal frequency and meal patterns. You may have noticed that in different households the number of meals consumed in a day varies. In some households only 2 to 3 meals daily are taken, whereas in others as many as 5 to 6 meals may be eaten in a day. The timings of these meals may also vary. Why is this so? The income, activity, Pattern, physiological state and age of the individual influences meal patterns. An individual belonging to high-income group would generally consume more meals as compared to an individual belonging to the low-income group. Income factor. A small child may not be able to eat much at a time, so he would need to be given small, frequent meals. Age factor. Similarly, a pregnant/lactating woman, whose nutrient needs increase considerably, may need to be given nutritious snacks and other foods. Preparations in between meals to accommodate her increased nutrient need. Physiological state. The work schedule of the individual would also influence meal pattern, the timing of meals and the number of meals consumed at home and those eaten away from home. This discussion demonstrates how important it is to keep the age, income, activity, pattern, physiological state and work schedule of the individual in mind while deciding on the meal frequency and meal pattern. 7. Economize on time, labor and fuel. You are aware that one of the basic aims of meal planning is to economize on time, labor and fuel. This point is particularly important for the families where the woman is working or where income is limited. Consider the case of Rati, who is a working woman. Rati may not get enough time to plan/prepare an elaborate meal, so she would probably prepare simple meals that are easy to cook, as well as save time and energy. For example, instead of catering for individual items like rice/dal/vegetable/curd in a meal, she may cook only one dish. Meals like khichdi, rice/dal/vegetable preparation, bisi bela holianana, rice/sambar preparation, or at the most 2-dish meals like vegetable pulav/curd, rice/sambar, chapati/palak dal. The need here is to prepare simple meals which are nutritionally balanced. Similarly, consider the case of Rani, who belongs to the low-income group. Limited resources may affect her choice of food and menu. She would rather prepare one dish. Meals like poshtik roti, missi roti, etc., which take less time and fuel to cook. These examples have illustrated one way in which we can economize on time, labor, and fuel. Another simple way to economize on our resources is to plan menus for several days in advance. It is beneficial to plan weekly menus. Look at the weekly menu given in Table 7.1. Table 7.1, Weekly Menu. Look at the screen for table content. These are sample menus for breakfast, lunch and dinner in a Punjabi household. You could prepare a similar weekly menu for your family based on the meal pattern of your region. Setting out the menu at the beginning of the week will help to ensure minimum repetition of foods and food combinations. Purchase food items. For example, staple foods like cereals, pulses could be bought in bulk once in 2 weeks or preferably once a month. Vegetables like onion/potatoes could be bought once a week. Perishable foods, especially milk and certain vegetables, could be bought daily. Remember, buying in bulk saves on time, money and energy. Use the leftover food from previous meals. Suppose you have some dal leftover from lunch. This dal can be reused to prepare poshtik roti for dinner. Mix the leftover dal with whole wheat flour. To this mixture add onion and vegetables like boiled carrots, green leafy vegetables. Knead the dough and prepare poshtik roti. This can be served with chitda and pickle. Undertake preparations in advance. For instance, if you want to cook Bengal gram or any such whole pulse like rajman/soya bean for lunch, it would be better to soak the grams in water overnight. By doing so, the outer hard covering of the seed grain would soften, thereby aiding in the cooking process and saving on time and fuel. Ensure efficient use of time and labor. 8. Variety in meals. One would definitely not like to eat the same kind of foods every day. That's why, while planning meals, one should include variety of foods in the meals. A mixed diet consisting of foods from the three food groups, as studied earlier, would help ensure nutritional adequacy. Further, varying the choice of ODD items selected from each of the food groups from day to day would help avoid monotony in the diets. A suitable combination of foods in terms of color, texture, flavor and varying the methods of cooking would help make meals look more appealing and attractive. Figure 7.4. Variety helps to ensure appealing and satisfying meals. Figure 7.4. Variety in meals. Look at the screen for table content. Here are a few handy tips on how to make meals appealing and attractive. Include attractive color combinations of food in the meals. To illustrate, consider a meal consisting of black gram dal, palak bhaji, spinach vegetable, and chapati. This meal, though being nutritious, may not look appealing and attractive as all food items are black or dark in color. In contrast, a meal consisting of moong dal, palak bhaji, chapati, curd and tomato onion salad looks appealing and colorful as there is a beautiful blend of colors, i.e. the yellow of dal, green of green leafy vegetables, white of curd and red of the tomato. Include a combination of flavors in the meals. There are a wide variety of foods with varying flavors. Foods like garlic, onion, cabbage, turnip have intense, strong flavor. Foods that are delicate, mild in flavor include the staple foods, i.e. wheat/rice, bread, potato, milk, vegetables like peas, cucumber and fruits like papaya, pear and banana. Combine mildly flavored foods with those that are strongly flavored. It is interesting to know that some flavors enhance others, like butter with bread, mint chutney with pakoda or coconut chutney with idli. On the other hand, some flavors mask others, like onion with pickle. Some flavors are pleasing when foods are eaten together, like rice/fish, rice/sambar, dal/roti. The art of good meal planning actually lies in a judicious blend of the varying flavors. Include a combination of textures in the meals. Combining soft and crisp, smooth and hard textures would make meal more appealing. To illustrate, consider a meal consisting of rice, sambar, curd and papad. In such a meal, rice, sambar, curd are soft and smooth. You can add crispness to this meal by including a papad or a raw salad. Use a variety of preparation methods. Variety in preparation should be part of meal planning. No two foods prepared in the same way should be included in one meal. Variety may be introduced by pre-preparation processes like germination or fermentation of food in addition to the usual methods of cooking, namely frying, boiling, roasting, steaming, and baking. Foods can be varied further by serving them well garnished or by adding butter/ghee. 9. Satiety value. Meals should be such that they have a good satiety value. By satiety we mean meals should relieve hunger and give a feeling of satisfaction and fullness. You know that fat and protein-rich foods have high satiety value as compared to carbohydrate-rich foods. Hence, some amount of fat and protein foods must be included in each meal so as to provide adequate satiety value and prevent the person from feeling hungry before it is time for the next meal. From our discussion above, you would have got a good idea of what points one need to consider while meal planning. The points to remember given below present a summary guideline to meal planning. Points to remember. Meal planning. 1. Plan meals according to the age, sex, income, activity pattern, work schedule of the individual. 2. Do plan meals in advance. 3. Ensure that meals planned help to meet the recommended dietary intakes for each member of the family. 4. Include at least one food item from each OTBE 3 food groups in each meal. 5. Include seasonal locally available foods in the meals. 6. Economize on the resources, time, labor and fuel. 7. Include in the meals those foods/dishes which are liked by family members. 8. Prepare the dishes in the way people know or are familiar with. 9. Introduce variety by including foods of different color, texture and flavor in each meal. 10. Avoid repetition of foods and method of preparing foods. 11. Ensure that meals prepared relieve hunger and give a feeling of satisfaction and fullness. Check your progress exercise 2. 1. Each of the following statements highlights the role of a particular factor in meal planning. Identify the factor in each case. A. A family abstains from eating beef. B. A meal consisting of dal, palak sag, green leafy vegetable preparation. Rice/chapati and tomato salad looks appealing and attractive. C. In the northern region, wheat and other wheat preparations are more commonly consumed. D. Some amount of fat, protein, carbohydrate and vitamins/minerals should be included in each meal. E. Processes like germination/fermentation, combinations, cereal/pulse, are used to make meals nutritionally adequate. F. A woman prepares khichdi, cereal/pulse/vegetable mixture, for lunch rather than a full meal of rice/dal/vegetable etc. 2. Give any 3 reasons to justify why meal planning is important. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 7.3. The adult. The term adult refers to any individual in the age group of 20 years and above. The period beginning from 20 years and extending through old age till the time of death is considered the period of adulthood. Adulthood represents the stage in life when an individual has completed his/her growth in terms middle of body size. The nutritional need is for maintenance of body functions rather than for growth. As an individual ages, there is a gradual and progressive change in body functioning. Why does this happen? This is because there is an increased breakdown of tissues and the renewal of worn-out tissue is also much less. These changes associated with aging are common to all individuals, but there is great variation from person to person. In some individuals, the changes become significant relatively early, whereas in other cases these changes appear much later in adulthood. The entire period of adulthood can be divided into 2 stages. The young adult, a person in the early years of adulthood representing the stable state in life, when tissue breakdown is not predominant or significant, the body retains the capacity to adequately replace the worn-out tissue, and the older adult, a person in the latter years of adulthood. This period is characterized by excessive breakdown of tissues and cells. The body can no longer compensate for tissue loss adequately. What are the changes associated with aging? How do these changes affect the functioning of body systems? You will find the answer to these questions in the subsequent section. Physiological changes during aging. The effect of aging on the functioning of some specific body systems is discussed here. 1. Kidney functions. During aging, there is a marked reduction in the number of functioning kidney cells. This affects kidney functioning. As a result, the body wastes are not effectively removed from the body. 2. Digestive tract functioning. The number of taste buds present in the mouth decrease with aging, which reduces the sensitivity to taste. There may also be a reduction in the amount of saliva secreted, thus making swallowing somewhat difficult. To add to this, is the problem of loose teeth which makes chewing difficult. Further, there is a decrease in the amount of acid and other digestive juices secreted by the digestive tract. As a result, the food is not digested and absorbed properly. The food lets in the stomach for a longer time because of which a feeling of fullness and heaviness is commonly experienced. The muscles of the digestive tract also become weak and the movement of food in the tract slows down. Constipation commonly sets in. 3. Skeletal system. Skeletal bone loss occurs with aging and may have serious consequences among the elderly. You have studied earlier that bone is chiefly made up of 2 minerals, namely calcium and phosphorus. With aging, there is some thinning of bone tissue due to the loss of these minerals. In some individuals, however, there is an abnormal thinning of bone tissue. As a result, osteoporosis develops. Osteoporosis is the condition when the bones become weak and brittle. Old people, especially women, are vulnerable to osteoporosis. But it is important to remember that these acute bone changes do not occur in all elderly persons. Let us now study how these changes influence the nutrient need of adults. 7.3.1 Recommended dietary intakes for the adult. The dietary intake for adults is expressed in terms of a reference man/reference woman. What do we mean by reference man/woman? Do you recall the discussion we had on reference man/woman in Unit 6 of Block 2? The Indian reference man you learnt belongs to the age group 20 to 39 years and weighs 60 kilograms. Let us get to know one more detail about him. He is free from disease and physical fit for active work. On each working day he is employed for 8 hours in an occupation that usually involves moderate activity. When not at work, he spends 8 hours in bed, 4 to 6 hours sitting and moving about, and 2 hours in walking and in active recreation or household work. Similarly, consider an Indian woman in the age group 20 to 39 years who weighs 50 kg. This, as you know, describes the Indian reference woman. She may be engaged for 8 hours in general household work, in light activity or in other moderately active work. Apart from 8 hours in bed, she spends 4 to 6 hours sitting or moving around only through light activity and 2 hours in walking or in active recreation or household duties. From our discussion above, it is evident that the age, body size and activity level of the reference individual is defined. But you may be wondering why we need reference individuals to compute RDLS for adults. This is because there is great variation in the nutrient needs of adults based on age, sex, body weight, i.e. the body size, and of course physical activity. RDIs are given for reference individuals and adjustment is then made in the nutrient need of adults who deviate from this reference. Let us now look at the recommended dietary intakes of adults given in Table 7.2. Table 7.2 Recommended dietary intakes for adults. Look at the screen for table content. In Table 7.2 you would have noticed that the nutrient requirements for adults are given under the 3 categories based on activity level: sedentary, moderate and heavy work, and the nutrient requirements for men and women are given separately. Why is it so? This is because the activity level, sex, body size/composition all influence the nutrient need. Let us consider each of them separately. A. The influence of activity level on RDIs for adults. Based on the nature of work and level of activity, different occupations are classified into 3 categories: sedentary, moderate and heavy. Figure 7.5. Sedentary meaning light work. A sedentary person is one who does most of the work sitting at one place using only his hands and head. A few examples of individuals undertaking sedentary work include teachers, tailors, typists, clerks, office executive, housewives who have household help. Moderate meaning neither too light nor too strenuous hard work. A person is said to be moderately active individual if his/her work involves use of both hands and feet continuously but not very strenuously. A few examples of people who would belong to this group would include postmen, housemaids, servants, fishermen, agricultural laborers, housewives who do most of the housework themselves manually. Heavy meaning hard, strenuous work. A person is a heavy worker if he or she is involved in hard/strenuous work using hands and feet very fast and continuously for a long period each day. Rickshaw pullers, stone cutters, mine workers, coolies belong to this group. Figure 7.s The 3 categories based on activity level. Look at the screen for table content. The nature of work influences the nutrient need. A mud-gnawing heavy, strenuous work needs an additional supply of energy as compared to a man doing moderate or light Work. The RDLS for energy and B vitamins are based on activity level. As the activity level increases, energy requirements increase, and so does the B vitamin need, as can be seen from table 7.2. What about the other nutrients? The requirement for all other nutrients is not influenced by the activity level. We just talked about how activity level influences energy requirements. However, activity level is not the only factor determining energy requirements. Which is the other factor? Read Highlight 1 for more details on this interesting aspect. Highlight 1. Estimating energy requirements. Consider a situation when an individual is resting or sleeping. What would be the energy requirement of the body under such a situation? You could argue that no physical activity is being performed, so the body does not need energy. Is this true? Haven't we forgotten something? The heart beats, the blood circulates, and respiration, digestion, absorption and maintenance of body temperature continue even when the body is at rest. Some amount of energy is required by the body to maintain these vital metabolic body functions. The amount of energy used in performing these functions when the body is at complete rest, both mentally and physically, is termed basal metabolism. The rate at which energy is required to carry on these functions is known as the basal metabolic rate, BMR, of an individual. What then is the total energy requirement of an individual? How do we calculate it? We take the basal metabolic rate of an individual as the foundation for calculating the total energy requirement. To the basal metabolic rate, the energy required for performing other physical activities like walking, playing, as well as manual work, which could be light, moderate or heavy, is added. And that is how the total energy requirement of an individual is calculated. Figure 7.6. Figure 7.6. Major components of energy requirement. Look at the screen for table content. One other question that comes to mind is, does the BMR, like physical activity, differ from individual to individual? What do you think? The answer is yes. The varies from one person to the other. The age, sex, body size / composition, growth, fever, stress, fasting, malnutrition are some of the factors that influence BMR. In general, BMR is higher in growing children, pregnant women, adult males, and in people with fever or under stress. BMR is lowered by fasting / starvation, malnutrition. B. The influence of body size / composition on RDLS for adults. In Table 7.2 you would have noticed that the nutrient needs of men and women vary. Sex difference. The energy and protein requirement of the woman is lower than that of a man of corresponding age and activity level. You might be wondering why this is so. Well, the basic difference lies in the body size / composition. In the case of the man, the body has more of active tissues such as the muscles. The woman, on the other hand, has more of the relatively inactive fatty tissue. How does this influence energy needs? The muscle tissue requires more energy for its activity. As a result, the basal metabolism of the man is higher than that of the woman, and hence the energy requirement of the man increases. The RDIs for proteins, on the other hand, are linked to body weight. In Unit 6 of Block 2 you learned that an adult requires 1 gram protein per kilogram body weight. Men, 60 kilograms, weigh more than women, 50 kilograms, of the corresponding age, and hence have higher protein needs. What about the requirement of other nutrients? The iron requirement for women is much more than that of men. This is so because extra iron is required to compensate for iron losses through menstruation in the woman in the reproductive age group. The Requirement for all other nutrients is the same for both the man and the woman. Now, let us study what happens to the nutrient requirement of adults with aging. C. The influence of age on RDLS for adults. The age of the adult influences the requirement for some of the nutrients. You have learnt earlier that with aging there is a decrease in the body functioning and performance. Hence, body metabolism is lowered. This factor, together with the reduced physical activity, creates less demand for energy. Table 7.3 tells you how energy requirement decreases with age. Table 7.3 Changes in RDLS for energy with age. Look at the screen for table content. Using this table, let us learn how to calculate the energy requirement. Consider a sedentary adult man. Y0! Learnt earlier that this man requires 2425 kcal. This is 100% RD. By the age of 40 he would require 95%, i.e. 95 100ths of 2425 equals 2304 kcal. Similarly, when he is 60, his energy requirement would further decrease to 1940 kcal, i.e. 80 100ths of 2425. This calculation can be used for both men and women of any activity level. It is clear, then, that with aging the energy requirement decreases. What about the requirement for other nutrients? Do they also decreases? Well, in contrast to energy, the requirement for other nutrients, namely protein, iron, B vitamins, remains the same as that of a younger adult. This is so because these nutrients are required to compensate for wear and tear and for excessive breakdown of tissues common in old age. One mineral that need emphasis and possible increase is calcium. Recent studies have shown that increased calcium intake during old age help prevent calcium loss from the tissues and development of osteoporosis. But still there is some controversy regarding nutrient requirement for older adults. Check your progress exercise. 3. 1. List any 2 important physiological changes which take place during aging. 2. State whether the following statements are correct or incorrect. Correct or false. Statements. A. Adulthood represents a period from 50 to 80 years. True/false. B. During old age, there is an increase in the active tissue, i.e. the muscles. True/false. C. Women require as much energy as men of the corresponding age, activity level. True/false. D. At the age of 65 years there is reduction in the requirements for protein and calcium. True/false. E. All old men and women suffer from osteoporosis. True/false. F. Energy requirements for adults are based on the activity pattern of the individual. True/false. 3. Calculate the energy requirement of a sedentary woman aged 55 years. Plus 7.3.2 Meal planning for the adult. You have so far studied the nutrient needs of adults. Let us now learn as to how to translate these RDIs into meals or food items to be consumed that would help maintain optimum nutrition. In this section we shall learn how to plan meals for both the young adult and the older adult. You are aware that the nutrient needs of adults vary based on the age, sex, and activity level. To help meet the varying needs, it is obvious that the meals planned for adults would also be varied. In general, whatever be the nutrient need, remember meal planning should take into consideration the basic 4 factors listed in the margin here. Certain other considerations that need to be kept in mind while planning meals include: whom are we planning for? Which nutrients are of particular importance? Which foods to select? What should be the meal pattern? What are the specific considerations? In this unit and subsequent units we will discuss meal planning under these headings. We begin meal planning by first identifying whom are we planning for? Is the adult we are planning for old or young? Men or women? Sedentary, moderate or heavy worker? Belong to low, middle or high income level? Information about these specific characteristics would help you determine the nutrient need, the kind and amount of food needed, and the meal pattern to be followed. Based on the information, you can list the RDIs, which nutrients are of particular importance. During adulthood, nutrients are required basically for the maintenance of body functions. The diet should, therefore, include sufficient amounts of all three categories of nutrients, namely energy-giving, carbohydrates/fats, bodybuilding, proteins, protective/regulatory, minerals/vitamins. However, depending on the age, sex and activity level of the adult, the amount of nutrients required from each of the three categories would vary. For instance, an older adult would require less energy-giving nutrients as compared to a younger adult. A woman would require less energy-giving and bodybuilding nutrients but more iron as compared to a man of the same age and activity level. A heavy worker would require more energy-giving nutrients than a sedentary worker. Which foods to select? To provide a nutritionally adequate and a well-balanced diet, one should include at least one food item from each of the three food groups, i.e. energy-giving, bodybuilding and protective/regulatory. The day's diet for an adult should essentially contain a cereal, i.e. wheat, rice, bajra, jowar or any other staple commonly used. One or more of the pulses, preferably in combination with cereals, or meat, fish, chicken if acceptable. Some amount of milk or milk products, at least one green leafy vegetable like spinach, fenugreek leaves, mustard leaves, etc. Other vegetables like cauliflower, carrot, brinjal, etc. Some seasonal fruits, fats and oils in adequate amounts, sugar/jaggery according to taste. We have just gone through a simple guide on what food items to include in a diet. But remember, the kind and amount of food selected would be influenced by the income and activity pattern of the individual. Which foods to select when income is limited or when income is high has already been discussed earlier in section 7.2.2. Now let us examine how the activity pattern influences the selection of foods. Consider the case of Hari. Hari is a rickshaw puller who travels long distances carrying people from one place to another. He's a heavy worker. Obviously, his requirement for energy would be much higher as compared to a sedentary worker. What about the protein need? You know, protein need is not influenced by activity level. The need would be the same as that for a sedentary or moderate worker. Hence, while planning meals for Hari, we would need to include more of energy-rich foods such as cereals, including roots and tubers, fats/oils, sugar/jaggery, so as to help meet the increased need for energy. Protein-rich foods like pulses, milk and protective/regulatory foods like fruits, vegetables may be given in just sufficient amounts to maintain body functions. What should be TBT meal pattern? The daily routine of the adult influences the meal pattern. Let us first consider those adults who are engaged in an occupation. For them, TSOC timing is important. It is commonly observed that most people work for 8 hours, the timings being 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The meal timing, number of meals and the kind of meals planned, therefore, need to be adjusted according to these work timings. The common meal patterns likely to be followed would be as under: A. Breakfast packed lunch dinner. B. Breakfast mid-morning meal packed lunch tea dinner. C. Brunch packed lunch tea dinner. D. Bed tea brunch packed lunch tea dinner bedtime. I. Lunch and dinner are the two main meals consumed in a day. Ensure that lunch and dinner provide at least 1/3 RD of the total day's calories. Breakfast and the rest of the meals together should provide the remaining 1/3 of the total day's calories. 2. Packed lunches are commonly carried by working adults. By packed lunch we mean any food preparation carried to the place of work which is consumed in the afternoon. It is essential that the packed lunches carried be balanced. The packed lunch must include at least one food item from the three food groups, namely energy-giving, bodybuilding and protective/regulatory foods. This, however, does not mean that we include 3 items, one for each group, in a packed lunch. One dish meals can also provide most of the nutrients. A few interesting ideas for packed lunches. Figure 7.7 include paneer/dal stuffed paranthas with pickle, poha, preparation made of rice flakes, vegetables and groundnut, vegetable upma, preparation of semolina, vegetable and pulse, poshtik roti with pickle, lemon vegetable rice, curd rice with vegetables, thali piti preparation of wheat, jwar, pulse and green leafy vegetables, with pickle, bisibella holianna, rice/sambar preparation. For details refer to Section 4 of Practical Manual 1, Nutritious 1 DLSH Meals Figure 7.7 Ideas for Packed Lunches. Look at the screen for table content 3. Brunch and meal pattern. C refers to a heavy breakfast. It is actually a heavy meal consumed in the morning. Including more fat and protein-rich foods in this meal would be advantageous as they would provide adequate satiety value and prevent the person from feeling hungry before it is time for the next meal. 4. Dinner is one meal which the adult can eat at leisure and hence it could be an elaborate meal. But this does not mean that it should be heavy. If the person is not working, then the meal pattern followed would be the same as suggested earlier in Unit 6, Block Z. So far we have talked about how to provide adequate, well-balanced meals for young adults. Now, let us examine the specific considerations one would keep in mind, in addition to the points discussed above, while feeding older adults. What are the specific considerations for the older adult? Various physiological changes take place during aging. These changes, especially the digestive tract changes, necessitate certain modifications in the kind and amount of food to be included in the meals, the number of meals to be consumed, the method of preparation to be adopted. What are these modifications? Let's learn. During aging there is a problem of loose teeth. As a result, chewing becomes difficult. What does one do in such situations? A change in the texture and method of preparation of food is recommended. Include only soft, well cooked, mashed or finely cut foods in the diet. All hard foods with skin or seeds should be avoided unless they can be softened by mashing or grating. Figure 7.8. Serve soft, well cooked, mashed or finely cut foods. Figure 7.8. Modification in the food preparations for older adults too. During aging there is the problem of impaired taste sensitivity. As a result, the pleasure of eating is partially lost. It is therefore advisable that the meals for the aged should be made more attractive and appealing by including a variety of foods and color combinations so as to encourage/motivate the elderly person to eat. Any strongly flavored foods or foods with a strong smell or totally bland foods should be avoided. 3. Particular attention has to be given for including protective foods, fruits/vegetables, in the diet of the elderly person, since these foods are frequently overlooked or omitted. 4. Old people commonly complain of having a feeling of fullness or heaviness. In such cases, therefore, small meals at frequent intervals should be given so as to help in the digestion process. Any fried or fatty foods or highly concentrated foods like sweets should be avoided. Constipation is a common complaint during old age. To overcome this problem, include plenty of fiber-rich foods/water and fluid in the diet. Fluid in the form of buttermilk, juices, tea, soups and other beverages can be given, in addition to water. An intake of 6 to 8 glasses of water a day is recommended. Some tips on how to provide adequate and satisfying meals for older adults are listed below in points to remember. Check your progress exercise. 4.1. Fill in the blanks. A. Meals planned for any individual should be blank and blank. H. A meal plan for a heavy worker would have more of blank rich foods. A blank meal pattern should be followed for an adult belonging to the lower income group. D. An old man cannot digest food properly. Hence avoid blank and blank foods in the diet. E. Selecting the right kind of food in the right blank and blank would help ensure balanced meals. 2. What two major aspects would you keep in mind while planning meals for a coal mine worker? 3. List any 3 dietary considerations you would keep in mind while planning meals for your grandmother. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU 7.4. Let us sum up. In this unit you studied the importance and need for meal planning. Meal planning, you learned, means planning for adequate nutrition. It involves proper selection of food to ensure balanced meals. It helps to make meals look more attractive and appealing through the judicious blend of color, texture and flavor. It also helps to make the best possible use of available money, time and energy. There are many factors which influence meal planning, some of which include nutritional adequacy, economic considerations, acceptability and availability. The second major aspect dealt in the unit is adulthood. Adulthood, you learned, represents the stage in life, 20 years and above, when all growth in terms of body size is completed. Nutrient need is for maintenance of body functions rather than for growth. However, there are great variations in the nutrient need of adults based on their physical activity, age, sex and body weight. This aspect should be kept in mind while planning meals for adults. The kind and amount of food included in the meals should be according to the age, activity, income and work schedule of the individual. Meals should help meet the nutrient need of adults. 7.5. Glossary. Aging. The term aging describes the process of gradual and progressive changes which take place over the entire adult lifespan. Constipation, a condition characterized by difficulty in passing stools. Garnish, a term used in cooking which means to decorate food items/dishes. Perishable foods, it refers to foods that would spoil easily. Staple foods, foods used frequently or daily, for example, rice in the south or wheat in the north. Taste buds, small organs of taste on the tongue, which help to detect different tastes/flavors, i.e. sweet, sour, salty, bitter. Texture, refer to the structure, appearance, consistency of foods, food items. Crisp, smooth, soft, hard or chewy are some of the texture of the food. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.